Coming up on Dare to Love, the price that a Muslim pays for leaving Islam is high, anywhere from losing their family and all of their possessions to losing their life. Today, Samya looks into the price of conversion with her guest, a Muslim background believer who endured persecution and physical harm after his conversion to Christianity. Also today, Christian persecution on a large scale in the Middle East as ISIS continues to drive entire communities from their homes in Syria and Iraq. Hear the surprising upside to this tragedy. Now here's Samya.
Welcome, I'm Samya Johnson, your host for Dare to Love, where we learn more about what our Muslim neighbors believe in order to better reach them with the gospel message. Over the last 10 years, more than 1 million Christians have been killed worldwide under persecution. Christians are under attack in numerous countries around the world. Their churches are bombarded, their lands confiscated, and their women kidnapped. The greatest two persecutors in this age are Islam and communism. For Muslims who have rejected Islam and embraced Jesus Christ as Lord, the persecution is in most cases fatal. Now, when did persecution against Christians start, and who are the current major people groups among Christians whose existence is in jeopardy? Let's watch.
January 7, 2015, two al-Qaeda gunmen forced their way into the Paris headquarters of the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo, shouting Allahu Akbar, Allah is great, and killed 12 staff members. 5 other civilians were killed and 11 more wounded in related shootings that followed in the region. July 18, 2014, ISIS took over the Iraqi city of Mosul, giving a one-day ultimatum to Christians there to convert, pay a fine, or face death by the sword. ISIS wishes to create a pure Sunni Islamic state, free of Shia beliefs, and ruled entirely by Sharia law. It also believes it represents true Islam, and as such should create an Islamic state in Iraq and eventually the whole world. April 14, 2014, the Islamic group Boko Haram kidnapped and tortured nearly 300 schoolgirls in the Borno state of Nigeria. Boko Haram's aim is to return to the fundamentals of Islam based solely on the Quran. They reject everything deemed un-Islamic, Western-style education in particular. Later, on May 12, 2014, the Boko Haram leader released a video to a French news agency in which he proclaimed, "I abducted your girls. I will sell them in the market by Allah. There is a market for selling humans. Allah says I should sell." October 1, 2012, one child died and several others were hurt in a grenade attack on a children's Sunday school class in Kenya. The attack took place mid-morning at St. Polycarp's Church in Nairobi, the capital of Kenya. The BBC reported that a police spokesman blamed sympathizers of Somalia's al-Shabaab Islamist militant group. July 7, 2012, at least 37 people were killed in armed attacks on Christians in northern Nigeria in a series of raids around the city of Jos. A police official said that hundreds of armed men participated in the coordinated assaults. The region has seen mounting violence between Muslims and Christians. As of July 30, 2012, over 30 churches and convents had been torched in Zanzibar, an island with a population that is 99% Muslim in Tanzania. The assailants were shouting, "Away with the church! We do not want infidels to spoil our community, especially our children." In Sudan, since 1983, more than 1 million Christians have been killed in government-sponsored jihad. In 2010, churches continue to be bombarded in predominantly Muslim Egypt by extremist groups. Countless Christian families in Upper Egypt are invaded in the middle of the night and slaughtered. Young girls are abducted and forcefully wed to Muslim men. In Iran, Muslims who convert to Christianity are hunted down and imprisoned or killed by their own families. Hundreds of thousands of Christians from Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Egypt seek asylum in Western countries every year after living under threat and as lower-class citizens under the Islamic reign. More martyrs for Jesus Christ died in the 20th century than in all previous 19 centuries combined. This century will most likely prove to be more repressive and bloody. Figures indicate that most of the anti-Christian persecution comes from Muslim countries, but there are also a significant number of persecuted Christians living in communist countries like China, North Korea, and Eritrea. Persecution is widespread in all of these countries. Persecution is not a new phenomenon. Christians have been persecuted since the time of the apostles. The first Christians expected persecution and bore it with courage. The number of Christian martyrs in the early church is unknown, although some early writers speak of great multitudes. The first great persecution took place under the Roman ruler Nero in 64 AD. Christians were tortured, thrown to wild animals, and burned as torches to light the night. This lasted almost 240 years. Jesus told his followers that the world will hate them just as they hated him. If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belonged to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. Remember what I told you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. If they obeyed my teaching, they will obey yours also. They will treat you this way because of my name, for they do not know the one who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not be guilty of sin, but now they have no excuse for their sin. Whoever hates me hates my Father as well. If I had not done among them the works no one else did, they would not be guilty of sin. As it is, they have seen, and yet they have hated both me and my Father. But this is to fulfill what is written in their law. They hated me without reason.
Why do Muslim women cover their heads? Do all Muslims really have to pray in Arabic, even if they don't speak Arabic? The more you look into Islam, the more questions you'll likely have. Get all of your questions answered by Samya right here on Dare to Love. Just email your questions to ask@daretolove.tv. ask@daretolove.tv. The Simple Truth, the Quran and the Bible side by side, is a great resource from Call of Love Ministries, written by Dare to Love TV program host Samya Johnson. The Simple Truth is a valuable, quick reference that was written with high school and college students in mind. This 60-page booklet is full of quick bullet points, comparing topics like sin, paradise, and martyrdom, as they are referenced in the Quran and the Bible. If you want to know what Islam is and what it is not, you'll find your answers in The Simple Truth. Purchase your copy today for $10 or place a bulk order at a discounted rate of $5 per book. Give as gifts to friends, college students, or provide for youth groups, youth organizations, or churches passionate to learn the facts about Islam and Christianity. To order online, go to our website, daretolove.tv, daretolove.tv.
For those of us who live in the West, we enjoy the freedom to choose what to believe in and who to follow. We are not accountable to our family, community, or government. Our faith is our own, and no one has the right to dictate their belief on us. We often forget that this freedom is not available for billions of people who live under tough regimes, whether militant, political, or religious. A large percentage of those restricted people belong to Islam, which is not only a religion, but also a government that gets involved in all aspects of the Muslim's life. For Muslims, whether living in their own countries or in the West, freedom to think, to choose, or refuse to follow Islam is almost non-existent. Muslims who consider leaving Islam to follow Christ faced many obstacles. Let me mention here 3 of them. First, a Muslim might be killed for leaving his religion. His friends and family believe they do him a favor if they kill him for converting to Christianity. They believe that the violence of his death will purge his soul and allow him to go to paradise. Saudi Arabia is ranked the #1 country for Christian persecution. Public beheadings of converts after Friday mosque services are a norm. Foreigners who try to witness to Saudis are usually imprisoned and then expelled. Second, Muslims who leave Islam to become Christians face harsh persecution, like the Kuwaiti man who became a Christian. He lost his wife, his children, his family, friends, his job, and all his possessions. I know many more who have lost everyone and everything when they decided to follow Jesus. Muslim converts are cut off from their family. They lose their business, they lose their wealth, their inheritance, their social status is lost forever. Thousands of them seek asylum in the West as their countries deny them the basic rights every human being deserves. On top of the list for countries that persecute converts are Iran, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Egypt, Pakistan, Malaysia, Afghanistan, and Indonesia. No matter how much we know, we continue to have limited grasp of the steep price Muslims pay to come to the Lord. Not only do we take our freedom for granted, but most of us rarely face persecution. We might be laughed at a bit if we are really on fire for Jesus. Our families might think we are a little weird or fanatical, but they'll still love us and give us our Christmas presents. Now, the third hardship that you might be surprised to know is the lack of acceptance among local Christians is a major obstacle that stands before many Muslim converts. Most churches in the Islamic world have a hard time accepting Muslim background believers. They take a long time to trust them, and they fear that the Muslim is seeking information in order to persecute them. Muslim converts don't fit in most of the Christian congregations in their country because of the vast cultural gap. In the West, our churches don't know what to do with a Muslim convert either. But one-on-one biblical discipleship with some contextualization is an utmost need for every new convert. When Muslims become acquainted with real, God-fearing, Bible-believing, loving, and genuine Christians, they are impressed and deeply touched. That's why it's so vital for us to form friendships with Muslims so that they can see Jesus in us. They need to see that we are different from what they think Christians are. They also need to experience how God is personally involved in our lives and how He helps us with life's troubles. This will encourage them to embrace this loving God who can protect them and guide them in their newfound life. Brother Hussein was a Muslim before he accepted Christ as Lord and Savior. I sat with him recently and picked his brain about how he and his fellow Christian friends, who were also prior Muslims, continue to face persecution. And I asked him whether suffering pushes some back to Islam. Let's watch. Brother Hussein, welcome to our show. I'm so glad that you were able to come. Today I want to talk to you about the price a Muslim might pay when they leave Islam. So what was it that you lost, or what price did you pay when you left Islam?
When I became a believer in Christ, when Jesus came to me and He changed my life, I knew that there was going to be a price. The Quran says, if they forsake you, pursue them and kill them wherever you find them. And we were taught, and Muhammad was asked in the Sahih al-Bukhari, he was asked, when is somebody to experience a death penalty? And there was like 3 or 4 categories of people that he says the death penalty could be applied to them. And one of them is people who change their religion from Islam.
What about your extended family back in the Holy Land where you went back? Did they know that you became a Christian? Did you live among them, or were you afraid to do so?
As I returned as a missionary to my homeland in around the year 2000, and when I went there, I used to go witnessing on the streets, not in my village, but in a nearby city. And I was witnessing daily, handing out tracts, telling people about Jesus. But I was threatened. My life was threatened. I was told that I would be killed if I didn't stop. And some of those people who threatened me went to my village and they told some of my relatives, what I had done and what I was doing. And you need to understand the importance of honor and shame in the Middle Eastern culture.
And you were bringing shame to your family and extended family.
And it's not just any shame. This is the biggest shame. I mean, it's the biggest shame, first of all, that I even became a Christian.
Of course.
That I left Islam and became a Christian. Or that's the way they view it.
Yes.
But then to actually be going out into the street and trying to make other Muslims to believe in Jesus Christ the way I do,
Yes.
that is considered a very, and I not only did that, I also went to mosques and spoke with imams, and so it was I was seen as, in fact, there was somebody from that city who said that I was the most evil evangelist in the history of the city.
Tell me how serious leaving Islam is, and you mentioned this a little bit, and what might a Muslim lose?
The issue of shame in the Middle Eastern cultures, specifically in the Muslim culture, is such an important issue. It's so important that the family honor not be, that nobody infringe upon the honor of the family. And if you infringe upon that honor, there are some, I'm not saying all, because most Muslims are just very good people, but I'm just saying some will say that the honor of the family has been infringed if somebody becomes a Christian, and they might kill them. I've known some Muslim background believers in the Middle East, and what happens is they won't kill them, but you have been ostracized. You will be left alone. You won't be able to marry. If you're living in a Muslim community, no one will want to marry you.
Of course.
Your siblings may not get married because of you. Your sisters or brothers may not get married because of you. You won't be able to work to provide for your family. The power of the shaming that could happen with a Muslim background believer is such a powerful force, and we say, well, thank God they didn't die, but in a sense, their
They're
lives
dead
are
to their
so,
families sometimes.
Yes, yeah. Jesus said, they hated me, they're gonna hate you too.
Yes.
And that's part of the price. And a Muslim is, and there's another scripture Jesus said, where he said, and this, for a Muslim, when a Muslim hears this scripture, it's just like, bing, it's just like, whoa. It's a tremendous struggle that you undergo. First of all, I went through it, and I know so many go through it, is that the guilt that you feel, the shame I brought on my family, the amount of pain that I've brought to people who loved me and raised me. I don't want to hurt my father.
Yes.
But, I have to see that I'm either going to hurt my father or I'm going to hurt Jesus.
Yes.
And, the real pain of that is tremendous. And some people, the pain, that guilt is so strong that some people go back to Islam.
Do they go back permanently?
I know somebody, I could tell you about him, and that pressure was so immense. When he got saved, his father kicked him out of the house, made him sleep in the donkey shed, and he was, suffered tremendously.
And powerless.
Yes, and no one will hire him. The family is well known, and he did go back to Islam, eventually because of the pressure. But and when he went back to Islam, he came and told me that he did, and he said to me, he says, if you don't want to be my friend anymore, that I understand. and I really struggled, with it, and I said, I told him, I'll be here for you, even though you have gone back to Islam. But within a few weeks, he came back to me, and he said, that even when I was in the mosque praying, Jesus was with me.
Oh.
He
He's
never
born
left
again.
me. The
No
Holy
turning
Ghost,
back.
yeah, you can leave him, but he remains faithful.
The Western world says Islam is a religion of peace, but the Quran itself doesn't call for peace. What does the Quran say? And how can we know what it says when it's written in ancient Arabic? The generous Quran is your answer. Translated accurately into English by an Arabic language speaker, the generous Quran is a must-read for anyone wanting to know about true Islam. In it, you will discover that the Quran itself is the source of terror by which extremists wage jihad, The Generous Quran. Get your copy today. To order online, visit our website, daretolove.tv. daretolove.tv. Learn more about our ministry on our website, daretolove.tv. You'll find a number of helpful, free resources, including online books and articles, as well as our radio and television programs. Our compassion and relief ministry reaches both Muslims and former Muslims with the love of Christ in Muslim-majority countries. Watch some of their testimonies and be encouraged by the Lord. And check out our online store with all of the tools you need to get started reaching out to Muslims in your neighborhood, including our own publications, The Simple Truth and Dare to Explore, both written by Samya Johnson. Get involved. Become a ministry partner or host a seminar at your church. And feel free to contact us with your comments and questions. We'd love to hear from you. It's all on our website, daretolove.tv. daretolove.tv.
More than a decade of unrest in the Middle East has caused an estimated 2 million people to live as refugees, sometimes in their own country. Tens of thousands of Iraqis fled to Syria during the war in Iraq between 2003 and 2011. But Syria has had its own civil war and an invasion by ISIS, causing a refugee reversal. Iraqis and many Syrians have returned to Iraq to join other Iraqis who have been displaced within their country by ISIS. About 1 million Iraqis have fled the ISIS takeover in central Iraq to seek safety in the Kurdistan region of northern Iraq. Though a small number of them are in camps, most live informally in local schools, unfinished buildings, and public parks. The great majority of the million refugees are members of religious minorities, Christians and Yazidis in particular. The rest are Muslims who also have been driven from their homes with no possessions or means of getting help. Internally displaced Iraqis of all faiths are extremely vulnerable and live in constant fear, with limited access to shelter, food, and basic services. Many live in dangerous areas beyond the reach of humanitarian agencies. In these places, refugees have often been displaced several times over and have extremely limited access to safer areas. Call of Love partners with a church in northern Iraq to provide shelter and supplies to some of these refugees. The church building itself is home to 80 refugee families. Nearby, an unfinished mall was converted into crude housing for 400 families. In this small 10 by 10 room lives a family of 9, including a physically handicapped boy. They stack their mattresses during the day to allow for some room to move. The church also rents a banquet hall for 50 families to live in makeshift rooms. Faraj and his family of 5 had to suddenly leave their village near Mosul when ISIS came in.
We lost everything within an hour. Everything. I used to have a clothing store. Now I am a refugee.
For 3 months, we had no help with food and shelter, only clothing. We are so thankful for the church's help now.
Call of Love's founder, Mike, was in northern Iraq to minister to the refugees, as well as to help distribute blankets and rugs provided by the generous donations to Call of Love's Compassion Ministry. Mike led the team as they held evangelistic meetings for the refugees each night they were there. The response to the gospel message was tremendous.
The church sits for 300 people, and for 4 days it was full. A lot of people came and gave their life to Jesus, and I was standing on the pulpit and looking at them, how they are hungry for the Word of God, coming, crying with tears and repenting. It was something wonderful.
The upheaval of lives in Iraq is tragic, but the Lord God is using the situation to draw the refugees to Himself. Many of the refugees are nominal Christians who are learning what it means to be in relationship with their Heavenly Father. Some are Shiite Muslims who would never have been exposed to the gospel had they not been forced out of their Islamic communities. And amazingly, a people group previously unreached by the gospel, the Kurdish Yazidis, are among those who are giving their lives to Jesus. During one of the evangelistic meetings, 50 Yazidis proclaimed Jesus as Lord and Savior. Help us continue to provide the spiritual and physical help so desperately needed in northern Iraq. Your tax-deductible gifts to our compassion ministry do make a difference in the lives of refugees. Call today, 832-220-4040, or visit our website, calloflove.org. Jesus said, "I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd."
Persecution is real, and it's still taking place all over the world among our brothers and sisters in Christ, especially for the millions of Muslims who choose to follow Jesus and make him Lord. As you try to reach your Muslim neighbor, remember all the obstacles they have to overcome once they decide to reject Islam and follow the one true living God. I pray that you'll have the courage to stand beside them, pray for them, be an encouragement, and offer practical help. We don't want to be the Christians who turn our backs on the Muslim converts who ask for our help. Let us take the risk and bear a small part of the pain and suffering they endure as they cross over from darkness into light. If you would like to watch today's program again or share it with your church or Bible study group, we would be glad to send it to you for any amount you donate to the work of the Lord through our ministry. Our website and email address are on the screen. Also, if you have any questions about what we've discussed today, I would like to hear from you. We were not able to answer some of the questions we received from you today, but I hope next time we will answer some, so keep sending them. I hope you continue standing firm on the promises of God, and until we meet again, I dare you to keep loving your Muslim neighbor. God bless you.
Thank you for watching Dare to Love. In learning about true Islam, we can protect our children from the westernized version of Islam and with Christ's help, boldly witness to our Muslim neighbors. If you've been blessed by what you've heard today, we would like to give you the opportunity to partner with us. Call the number on your screen right now or visit our website. Dare to Love is a production of Call of Love Ministries, a Christian nonprofit organization. All contributions are tax deductible. Donate online at calloflove.org. That's calloflove.org. Or call us at 832-220-4040. That's 832-220-4040. You can also send a check to Post Office Box 498698, Cincinnati, Ohio 45249 USA. Together, we can make an impact in God's kingdom.
Meet us here next week as we continue to unveil what Islam teaches its followers, how Muslims practice their faith, and what we as Christians should know as we try to witness to our Muslim neighbors. Dare to Love is made possible by the friends and partners of Call of Love Ministries.